Orhan was the founder of the strongest S-rank party, but his friends kicked him out because his support magic is not good enough compared to others. However, Orhan was never a mage to begin with, and he decides to return to his true skill and passion for swordsmanship to become the greatest adventurer ever. Orhan aimlessly wanders through the dungeon all on his own, looking tired of his own existence when he comes across a demon rat. He takes his sword out, which he hasn't used for what seems like ages at this point. He turns his face towards the monster and slashes it down in one clean strike, realizing that he has gone a little rusty after not using the sword for so long. This catches the attention of some other rats in the dungeon, who immediately rush towards Orhan and try to attack him. These creatures are of no match against the creator of the hero's party, though as with a quick 1-2. He kills the remaining rats that came in his way. He looks at all the cores spread on the dungeon floor and thinks that he might not be as out of shape as he first thought, and maybe there is still some hope for him as a solo swordsman. Before he could turn around, though, he gets surrounded by a group of goblins who are substantially stronger than the demon rats, and Orhan knows that. He decides not to take any chances and uses his own support magic on himself, boosting his strength for a short duration, making him tankier and his sword more dangerous. With that, the goblins attack Orhan, but they were no match against the speed and skills he had after being in an S-ranked party. He slaughtered them all one after the other while thinking about how he never really tried his own support magic on himself, and realizes how overpowered it makes him feel. He was about to let his guard down after killing the entire first wave, but before he could take a breather, a second wave of goblins attacked him head-on. Knowing that his support enchantment would wear off soon, he jumps headfirst and slashes through all the goblins that came in his way, even chasing one down at the end to send him down to hell. With that, his defensive enchantment wears off, and he realizes that his spell only works for 3 minutes of combat, which means that he needs to be careful about when and how he uses it. Just then, the third wave of these never-ending goblins enter the dungeon and rush towards Orhan at full speed, aiming for the kill, but Orhan manages to overpower them once again and starts killing them one by one. He soon realizes that his enchantment is about to end, so he uses the spell once again near the very end to continue his onslaught as he deals with the last few goblins of the horde. As he sees the life go out of the eyes of the last goblin, the memory of the evening still haunts him. He remembers again how Oliver entered his study alongside Anne and Derek and told him outright that they are going to kick him out of the hero's party. Orhan was left shocked as he tried to make sense of what was happening. He turned towards Oliver, asking what the hell is he talking about. They are supposed to be best friends, but Oliver stayed cold and calculated, telling him that just because he is a friend from the same village doesn't hide the fact that he is the most useless member of the team. Anne and Derek both chime in, claiming that all he is doing is slowing them down and holding them back from achieving greatness. Orhan's life flashes in front of him as he tries to make sense of the surreal situation. How can his best friend decide to kick him out of the party that he himself created? A party that became known as the Hero's Party because of how quickly they climbed through the dungeons and soon became one of the best parties in the entire country. Oliver reasons that during the last collaborative dungeon clearing mission, he observed other parties and how the enchanter of their group was so strong and capable of helping the other members, and compared to that, Orhan is utterly useless. Orhan couldn't believe his own ears as he snaps back, claiming that he is not an enchanter to begin with, and the only reason he took on the role was because no one in the party had any aptitude for magic. So he sacrificed his own position as a swordsman and started training as an enchanter, and even created his own style of magic to make up for the talent that he lacked as a support mage. Anne laughs in his face though, calling him a pathetic loser who is making excuses since Oliver was a much better swordsman than him to begin with. With that, Orhan turns towards Oliver as he was his last hope, but Oliver coldly tells him that they have even found a replacement enchanter as well, who will help them climb through the ranks and achieve greatness. Orhan finally accepts the new reality, and the fact that there is no place for him in this party anymore. With one final goodbye, he turns to leave when Anne laughs, claiming that he was never supposed to be in an S-ranked party anyways, since his swordsmanship and magic are both at a rank, which means he is a pathetic jack of all trades, but master of nothing. Finally, he snaps back to reality as he walks ahead, thinking about the new style of fighting he has developed, which merges the traditional roles of a swordsman and a mage. He decides that he will continue being a jack of all trades, but at the same time he will master them all and show them what a giant mistake Oliver and the others made. Just as he was about to leave, a group of 4 adventurers rush into the teleportation room all out of breath. Their leader asks whether they were alright since they were not expecting so many orcs all at once. One of the members speaks up, claiming that they have left the girl behind though. The leader claims that he made the right call, as if they tried to help the girl they would have all died. And anyways, the girl just joined their party today, so he obviously prioritized his older friend. The wound of his own party abandoning him was too fresh in his mind, so Orhan turns towards the men and tells them that he hates people like them. One of the guys claims that they could have done nothing to help her, and one of them tries to attack Orhan, but he gets manhandled and swiped to the floor, as Orhan tells them to shut their ugly mugs and run away. With that, he turns towards the leader and angrily asks him where the hell did he leave the girl to die and rushes off in that direction to save her. He finds her at the end of a cave where she was completely cornered against what seemed like an army of orcs. She kept backing against the wall with tears in her eye and used her defensive shield as the orcs advanced. Her shield wasn't able to stay up for long, though as soon the orc managed to break through the shield and were about to end her life, when Orhan jumps in and used his wind magic to push them back. The girl was shocked and dazed, but Orhan didn't waste a single moment as he took out his sword and ran at the orcs. The first orc tired, pummeling him to the ground, but Orhan managed to block the attack easily, and with his own support magic as reinforcement, he slashed through the orcs as if they were made out of butter. The girl stood there confused, wondering whether Orhan is a swordsman or a mage, as he used his reinforcement magic to enhance the sharpness of his blade before rushing at the orcs, chopping through their weapons and their bodies alike. He realizes that the guys were right, as they could have never handled so many orcs at once, but he would have rather died than leave a party member behind. With that thought, he slashed through dozens of monsters all at once. While the girl watched in awe, wondering who this man is, Orhan continued his killing spree, and with the second burst of attacks, he managed to cut through every single orc in the cave, leaving only their corpses and shiny cores behind. With that, he turns towards the redhead at the end of the cave, but finds her lying on the floor as the adrenaline wears out. By the time the sun started setting, they came out of the dungeon, and the redhead introduced herself as Sophia before asking him out to dinner as a gesture of thanks for saving her life. Orhan ends up accepting and follows her down to a tavern owned by the Silver Rabbits Guild. He realizes that she is from the guild itself, as she also had a crest on her cape, and realizes that she reminded her of someone but couldn't put a finger on it. Soon that confusion disappeared when Sophia introduced him to her older sister Selma, who Orhan already knew, as she was also an S-ranked enchanter from a different party. Selma was the strongest enchanter in the country, and she was the one who came up with the system of dividing the roles into the swordsman, who attacks, the tank who absorbs damage, and the mage who provides support. Shay eyes Orhan with disgust and tells him that she is going to call the FBI since her sister is just 14. Orhan immediately tells her that his name is not on the Epstein files, so she can chill, while Sophia tells her sister that Orhan actually saved her life. Selma calms down a little after that and scolds her sister for going out on her own to a dungeon without telling her first. They soon start talking, and Orhan tells Selma that he was kicked out of the heroes' party, so he is more or less a vagabond at this point. He immediately sees Selma's eyes twinkling, and he wonders whether she is thinking of recruiting him into her party. But before that could happen, he tells Selma that he has no plans of joining any party in the near future for now. Selma tells him not to flatter himself and asks whether he is up for a job. This was surprising for Orhan, and he gets curious and asks about the job. Selma claims that a huge party from her guild is going down to the dungeons tomorrow. The party will contain loads of new adventurers, and the A-rank members are supposed to guard them and see that the floor bosses that appear every 10 levels are defeated and there aren't any casualties. She claims that the expedition is greenlit by a sponsor, and she would love it if Orhan agrees to accompany them as an extra adventurer. She also tells Orhan that she really respects his skills and strength, otherwise she wouldn't have asked this of him. This cuts deep within him, as the reason why he was kicked from his party in the first place was because his party members were impressed by Selma herself when she was showcasing her magic, and that's why they decided that they needed a better mage for their party as well. Orhan decides to agree, but on the condition that he will only go down to the dungeon as a swordsman, as he is no longer a mage. Selma is a little worried about that, but decides that recruiting him is more important, as most probably he will go back to his main role as a mage when things go south. After dinner, Orhan decides to visit one of the shops to get some gear, and the old man immediately greets him like an old friend. The old man had been Orhan's armor and weapon guy since the very beginning, when Orhan was no one, and with a heavy heart Orhan reveals that he won't be able to do any more advertisement for him, as he is no longer in the heroes' party. He claims that now no one would give about what weapons he uses or where he goes to get his armor, and apologizes to the old man for letting him down. The old man simply smiles and thanks him for everything that he has done till date, claiming that people will still listen to him as he is a genuinely nice person who is strong and will find a way back to the top once again. This surprisingly brings a tear to his eye as he realizes that someone is still counting on him, and he decides to give his all and rebuild himself from the ground up. The next morning, Orhan goes alongside Sophia to meet with the head of the Silver Rabbit clan, known as Vince. He welcomes Orhan to their clan building and introduces himself. Orhan replies that it is an honor for him to meet with the leader of such a powerful clan as the Silver Rabbits. Vince smiles at that, claiming that he doesn't need to be so on edge, as they are both equals. Vince claims that he is well aware of Orhan's achievements and knows that he was one of the key reasons why the heroes' party was so successful. He reasons that they should keep the pleasantries aside and instead trying to figure out what the other person is actually thinking. They should focus their minds on the task at hand, which is this teaching expedition. Vince turns towards Selma for the explanation, and she starts by mentioning that they will be going from the first floor of the dungeon all the way down to the 51st floor in the matter of 3 measly days. She claims that they will stop their journey at the level 21 at day 1 and continue onwards on the second day till floor 36, and finally on the third day they aim to conquer the 51st floor. While explaining all this, she remembers the conversation she had yesterday with Vince when she first told him about the fact that Orhan has been kicked out of the heroes' party. Vince immediately claimed that the heroes' party made the biggest mistake of their lives, as without Orhan managing everything to perfection, they won't be nearly as strong as they were before. Selma agreed with the assessment, claiming that his support magic took them to a very high level, which would have been impossible for them without his help. She knows that at a raw scale, Orhan's support magic is not as strong as some of the S-ranked support mages, but he makes up for it with his casting speed, which is at least 4 times faster than even her own speed. She remembers the fight, claiming that he was using several of his own original spells as well, and more than that, his ability to understand the situation and react to it with crisp decisions is basically unmatched. With him out of the equation, the heroes' party won't be able to retain their